Hi, my name is David, and for the past 35 years I've been a professional entertainer, mainly a street performer. And just recently I was on a podcast where I was interviewed about my career as a street performer and how it came to be that I did this for the past 35 years without even meaning to, in a sense. It just happened that I traveled around performing all this time. And anyway, I really like the podcast, and I'm going to share it with y'all. And whether there's a message for you or not, or whether you relate to street performing, I think you might find the stories entertaining of me traveling around performing. And anyway, here it is.
This is episode 88 of The Variety Artist. This is John Abrams, your host and a guy that interviews successful variety artists from around the world. The zip code man, David Rosteicher, has memorized the zip codes of every city in the U.S. and many abroad. His act is unique and uses no electronics. Not only does he name the city you're from, he tells of the places you've been and the restaurants you've eaten at. Today, you're going to learn David's secret. Or maybe you'll learn that there's no secret at all. But you will learn how the comment of one little girl inspired an entire act. Fascinating stuff. Enjoy the show.
Fun fact number 27. John used to do triathlons.
Welcome to The Variety Artist, providing aspiring artists and entertainers with in-depth discussions from top performers from all over the world. So get ready to book some gigs, make some money, and have some fun with your host, John Abrams.
My guest today is an author and juggler, but is mostly known for holding the Guinness World Record for memorizing every zip code in America and abroad. He's the winner of Best of Boulder many times. One of the most unique acts you'll ever see. Variety artist, I give you the zip code man, David Rosteicher.
Good to be here, John.
How's it going, David?
It's going pretty good.
Good. Now let's start from the beginning. Did you start off as a juggler, I understand?
Yeah, I started out as a juggler street performing in New Orleans in the French Quarter.
And then did you move to Boulder? How did that work?
Performed in New Orleans from 85 to 91, and then I moved to Boulder, which also has a street performing place.
Okay, and then you moved to Boulder, and isn't it cold during the winter there?
It can get cold, yeah. We recently had a snowstorm, and there's another one about to come tonight.
So what do you do when it starts to get winter in Boulder?
It's just very slow for me between the months of November through February.
Oh, do you even put out a hat?
I didn't know I do shows. I do shows throughout the year, but it's slow during the winter.
Oh, I see. And then during the winter, do you do cruise ships and theaters and?
I do gigs, yeah.
So what made you transition from juggler to zip code guy?
What happened was, I had a really successful juggling act in New Orleans that worked in New Orleans and every place I took it to. But it didn't work in Boulder because Boulder back in the late 80s and early 90s was the juggler's capital of the world. When I moved there, I was like, in New Orleans, would be considered a really good juggling act. And then when I moved to Boulder, there were all these people who were better jugglers than me, and there were many jugglers. I had to do something different. And I had this juggling act that people might call a generic juggling act. Not that much different than anything you've seen.
Sure.
So I had to do something different. And my show was especially similar to another guy except he was better than me.
Okay.
I was like, I can't stay where I am. I have to do something different. Right before I moved to Boulder, after I did a show in Jackson Square, New Orleans, a girl comes up to me and told me that she saw this act where you give this guy your zip code and he can tell you where you live.
All right.
And when I heard that, I have two things I love is geography and numbers, and I thought that would be the exact perfect thing for me, but I don't want to do that because someone's already doing it.
Sure.
But when I moved to Boulder, I had to do something different because I didn't want to be like, I had to evolve in some way.
Especially since there's a ton of jugglers there, right, at the time.
There's a ton of jugglers there, and there's a guy who, who my act was similar to him, but he was better.
Right.
And so I was like in this situation where I decided to develop a zip code act as a temporary solution to the dilemma I was in.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just distinguish my show from the other shows. So I've always been a geography fanatic. That's basically exactly what I love is geography. I went and got a zip code directory and started memorizing it and kept doing that for a couple of years, and then I would put it into my juggling act.
Wait, so you were doing juggling, and then you grabbed these zip code books. Now, wasn't that intimidating when you first looked at them and said, oh my gosh, there's thousands and
Right,
thousands?
no, it was intimidating. Like, how the hell am I going to remember 50,000 whatever zip codes?
Yeah.
It sounds ridiculous, but the thing is, I have this weird thing with remembering numbers, and I have this fanaticism about geography, and I said if it can be done, and I assumed it was done, then I can do it.
Okay.
And so then I start memorizing the hell out of, and their zip codes are arranged in a logical pattern, and
Yeah.
gradually, when I was at the end of my juggling act, when I was on my tall unicycle with fire torches, I said, anyone from out of town, what's your zip code? And then people gave me their zip code, and the act of doing this act where people give me a number and I tell them about the place was both so much fun for me and so much fun for the person whose mind gets blown.
Well, yeah, that's the amazing thing to me is not only do you, well, there's two amazing things happening at the same time. Not only do you know the zip code and where they're from, but you'll name a restaurant or some place that they visited.
Right. I've been traveling the U.S. extensively for years, and and I'll tell them all about their place. And so when I started doing that, I mean, to me, juggling, I was never even planning to be a lifelong street performer. I mean, I thought of it as something I was doing temporarily while I figure out what I'm going to do. The solution to my problem with having a generic juggling act was thought of as I thought of it as a temporary solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to street perform or even perform that long. I would figure out what career I would do. But then when I started doing this thing, street performing became the thing I loved to do more than anything. Because it was like a place where I could just be this geography geek as a way of entertaining people.
Yeah.
I started doing this, and the show was becoming it was becoming in Boulder like even more popular than the top juggling acts.
Wow. Because it's so unique.
It's not just the uniqueness, it was the fact that it touches people personally. And it's the most fun thing for me to do. I mean, of all the things there are to do that's fun, you could imagine all the kinds of things people like to do. This is up there with pretty much everything. I guess it's the most consistently enjoyable thing I like to do, is my show.
Yeah. It seems to me that, I'm a magician myself, and when I perform, I get that great feedback and everything. But it seems like you're connecting to people individually, person by person, and you're actually connecting with them and something they're about.
Right, exactly. And that's what's fun for me, where you make this connection with someone one at a time. You know, when I started doing it back in 1991, and what keeps the show going was now, it wasn't like I made any commitment to do this. It's just so much fun to do it, and I don't get tired of it.
You just love it, huh?
Yeah, that's just how it is. It's almost like it runs by perpetual motion. I don't have to get motivated to do it. Yeah, that's just how it is.
So how many zip codes do you think you know about?
Probably about 40,000.
Oh my gosh. And how long? Wait, a couple things. Did you just memorize those 40,000, or did you memorize, 30,000, and then over the last 20 years take care of the rest? How did that all work?
It was sort of a gradual thing where first I would get the general areas of things, then I would go deeper into the details, and over time I just gradually kept getting better at it.
And then the restaurants and the different places, you've actually visited all those places?
Yeah. Before I was doing this kind of show, it was almost like when I would travel to festivals as a juggler, it was almost like going to the festival was like an excuse to stop in places along the way, because I was curious about all these places, because I was just into geography.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always curious about places I knew the names of and where they were, but I was always curious about what's unique about this place, what restaurants are there that are unique to it, what are the people like. Let's say I would drive from, let's say, New Orleans to Houston to do a festival. I would stop in all these towns, sometimes just because I liked the names of the towns. And then I would travel around the country with my show, with my juggling act, doing that for years, and I got to know this country really well.
And then you just filed them away in your head and said, this restaurant belongs to this city, and et cetera,
Well,
et cetera?
I usually don't, especially when I'm in a place, I don't forget a place I'm in, and I'm always curious, what is a restaurant that's unique to this place, or what is a street that's unique, or what's different about this place?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like since I was a kid, I was just fascinated by places.
Wow. Well, Louis Fox gave me the idea of a particular app. It's called a Roadside Atlas, I think it's called. Wherever you are in the country, you can type in the zip code, and it'll show you something unique about that city. It'll show you pictures and have reviews and different things, and you can go visit that particular thing. But you have that in your brain.
Right. It's like I'm a roadside app, yeah.
Yeah, you are. So you either take the Roadside app or you take David with you.
That's kind of how it is.
Yeah. Are there any memorization methods that you could teach us or that you use?
I know of them. Like, there were these books by Harry Lorraine on memory, and I've read them before, but I don't actually use any techniques.
Okay, well, one of the fascinating things about your show, to me, I've watched a lot of video on your performances and things, and you'll pull, 10 or 12 people from the audience, and they'll tell you their zip code while they're coming up from the audience, and then you'll remember, they won't say it again, you'll remember every single person.
You're right, and then I put them on a map, and then I tell a story that connects all the people and places, and I remember all the zip codes, and I can probably put 100 people on the map and remember their zip code.
Wow. And is this something that you think you were born with, or do you think you're obviously, you're not using any techniques, right?
Right. But there is something similar to a technique in that the zip codes are arranged in a logical pattern that makes it easier. And when I put people on a map, it gives me a hint about what the zip code was.
Okay, so if you put them in California, for example, those are the nines, I guess?
Right, exactly.
And if you put them in New York, they're the zeros, right?
Right. And so it gives me a hint.
Now, how do you prove, if you're doing, for example, a theater venue or some venue where you're not outside in the open, do you have to prove that you're not using any sort of electronic devices?
A lot of people suspect that I am, but that's just how it is. That's the way that trick has been done by magicians.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think that's a bad thing, you know, that they're doing it that way, but, you know, people could come up and look, but there are people who think that I'm doing a trick.
Do you do anything at the beginning of your show to disprove that?
I don't. It's basically, I really just am so into the activity of telling people about where they come from that it almost doesn't matter to me whether they think I'm for real or not.
Right, so the important thing of the routine, of the whole thing, is the entertainment value.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, more than how does it...
And it's both entertaining for them and entertaining for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's always fun not knowing what number is going to come out of someone and where in my mind I'm going to go when they give me that number.
Wow. All right, so we're going to do something kind of fun here. Now, I know I could have preset this, just like we're talking about the electronic devices. I could have preset this, but you and we even had difficulties at the very beginning of this, getting our audio together, right?
Right.
So I don't think there's any way you and I could have figured this out. So here's what I did. I messaged a few of my friends and said, give me your zip code, and I'm going to give you a few zip codes. And,
go ahead.
Yeah, okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start off easy, and then it get harder and harder as we go.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, here's a tough one. 80302.
That's where I live in Boulder, Colorado. There's a street performing place right there.
I told you that might be an easy one.
Yeah, it might be easy. Yeah, okay, so you're starting out with the easy one. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, here's one that, I'm not even going to give you a hint. 90503.
In Torrance, California.
Very good. There's where I grew up.
Oh, cool.
So I know that town very well.
Yeah.
Here's one that was sent to me. 48390.
In White Lake, Michigan.
Very good. That is my friend Doug Shear, who is a...
Yeah.
Oh, you know Doug?
No, I don't know Doug.
Okay.
But I know the zip code. It's outside of Detroit.
Oh, there you go. He's going to love this. He'll be listening to this. These are some of my listeners here. Okay, how about 33705?
In St. Petersburg, Florida.
Oh, man. Okay, that is my daughter's boyfriend's parents.
Oh, cool.
All right, here's one for you from one of my listeners. 08844.
In Hillsborough, New Jersey.
I don't even know if that's right or wrong. I'm assuming that's right, but whoever...
Yeah, that's Hillsborough, New Jersey.
Okay.
Little town in central New Jersey. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you a couple more
Go
here.
ahead.
Now, these are going to get a little tougher. Well, for me, they're
go
tougher.
ahead.
I don't know. Maybe not for you. I don't know. 35442.
In, hang on a minute. Don't tell me. Tapper, Alabama.
Okay.
Or it's this place next to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It's something like Capper or something like that. Anyway, right next to Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Okay. I have Alabama. I'm not sure the name of the town, but all I know is the population is 10.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it's an itty-bitty little teeny-weeny little town.
Yeah.
Okay. This one I particularly know. 93428.
I think it's Cambria, California.
Okay. It's actually right next it's in Cambria, but it's a place called...
Wait.
Go. Okay, go. I won't say any more.
Not Cambria. This place next to San Luis Obispo.
Yes. You're in the right area.
Not Cambria. It begins with a C?
No.
Oh, huh. I might not know this one. Hang on a minute. It begins with an F. What's the first letter?
H.
Hang on. I cannot think of it right now.
That's
but I
okay.
will think of it in a second.
Do you want it?
Okay, go away. I feel like I know it. It'll annoy me when I hear it. Well, okay, what is it?
When I tell you, you're gonna go, it's Harmony.
Yeah.
Harmony,
Oh,
California.
Harmony. Okay. Yeah, I screwed that up. But
Yeah, no big deal. And you know, the only reason
Yeah.
I know that is because one of my best friends, he named his daughter after that city.
Okay, Harmony.
Yeah, I think she was conceived in that city.
Okay, I will remember that next time.
There you go, 93428.
Yeah, Harmony, California.
Yeah. By the way, can I put your YouTube link of you breaking that Guinness World Record on your show notes?
Yeah.
Okay, great, because that's fascinating. I watched that, and I think that's fascinating. You do how many zip codes do you do in a row?
They had a computer that gave out zip codes at random, and I did 36 in a row.
Man, that's great. Okay, so now you did a lot of street performing. Are there a couple of funny stories from your street performing days?
Yeah, no, I have so many stories. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start because I've been to so many different countries and, you know, every state in the U.S. and almost every province in Canada except the Northwest Territories. So, I mean, yeah, so I have a lot of, yeah, you could probably name a place and I probably have a story about it.
Well, I don't have any places, but do you have any one or two off the top of your head?
One time, I was performing at a trade show in Salt Lake City. It was an outdoor recreation show, you know, for outdoor equipment, like skiing and climbing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And people are giving me their zip code. And a lot of people ask me if there's anything I remember besides zip code. Actually, there is. When I was a kid, I used to love to memorize sports statistics.
Oh.
And I've always been fascinated by where athletes came from. At the time, Sports Illustrated had their 50th anniversary. And for the 50th anniversary, they listed the top 50 athletes of each of the 50 states.
Okay.
I would start reading what the top 50 athletes were, and I thought, how are they going to come up with 50 athletes from the state of Alaska? And so they mentioned, you know, like the first guy might have been this guy named Tommy Moe, who's a skier, won a gold medal in the 1994 Olympics. You know, and I recognized a couple other people. And then to fill up all these athletes, they would list like winners of a special dog sled race.
Okay.
But anyway, so I remembered that Tommy Moe was from this little town called Palmer, Alaska. So people are coming up to me, asking me zip codes. And this one guy comes up to me and says, I bet you're not going to know my zip code. He says to me, 99645, which is the zip code of Palmer, Alaska. And I told him, he told this guy he came from Palmer, Alaska, and that there's a really great skier from there named Tommy Moe. And he says, that's me. And it turns out it was him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's almost like I didn't just get the town right, I got the person right.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's zip code guy and mind reader.
Yeah. But yeah, it was one of these crazy things where I couldn't create that situation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have a magician friend who used to do a trick called card on the ceiling, where basically it's pick a card, put the card back in the deck, and then he shuffles up the deck and he throws the deck of cards up to the ceiling, and one of the cards sticks on the ceiling, and it's your signed card. So years ago, we flew to, I think it was maybe Arizona, and we're in the airport. Someone comes up and says, oh, you know, I hear you're a magician. Can you show me a trick? So he sets up card on the ceiling, and he says, you know, pick a card, signs the card, puts it back in the deck, shuffles it up, and he throws it up onto the ceiling, but it doesn't hit the ceiling. Before the ceiling, there's this ceiling fan where the blades are going slowly around, and the deck of cards hits one of those blades, and the entire deck falls down, but one card is stuck on the blade.
And it's that card.
Yeah, and it was his card.
That's like better than the trick he wanted.
Oh, way better! And there's no way he could ever do that again.
Right. Things like that happen, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so do you have another story that you can tell us?
back in 2011, I have people on my map, and this girl gives me this number, 68640, which is the zip code of Genoa, Nebraska, a tiny little town. That was a zip code someone gave me many years earlier when I was doing a show at a hotel for some corporate event. And I didn't remember it, didn't know the zip code. And in that show, it was one of these shows where I didn't know not just that zip code, but didn't know a lot of others. And the show was terrible.
Okay.
Even my juggling tricks didn't go well. I mean, everything, it was one of these shows where everything went wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of the show, I felt like I did such a bad show that I didn't ask the guy that hired me to pay me. I didn't ask him for the check.
Mm-hmm.
That was back in about 1996. I did that show where I didn't ask for the check and never got paid for that show.
Okay.
Come back 15 years in the future, 2011, this girl gives me, this zip code for Genoa, Nebraska. And then at the end of the show, she introduces me to her dad. And her dad told me, you did a show for us about 15 years ago. And he says, I believe you didn't get paid. I said, well, yeah. Then I remembered the show, and I said, yeah, I just felt like I did a bad show, and I felt like I didn't even deserve to get paid. And so he ends up, he says to me, well, I'm going to pay you right now. And he takes out his wallet. He gives me $100 bill, then another one, then another one, then another 100, then another 100. And then he says, thank you for your performance. So I ended up getting paid for a show that I did 15 years earlier when I was doing a show on the street in Boulder 15 years after the show.
Oh, that's great. The only thing I can think of when you tell that story is, what if it wasn't you?
That would be funny. That would be funny if he mistook me for someone. I would secretly thank the person that did the show.
You're like, thanks for paying me for somebody else's show.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to go to fact or something John just made up. Does that sound like fun?
Yeah.
Is it fact? Or is it something John just made up?
Okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to say a headline, and you're going to tell me whether it's true or not, and if it is true, tell me a little more about it. How's that sound?
Okay.
All right, here we go. First headline. David's Memory Act was influenced by folk singer Pete Seeger.
That is true.
Oh, that's true? How is that true?
When I was a really little kid, my favorite song was America the Beautiful, sung by Pete Seeger. And it was on this album called America the Beautiful. And it was the beginning of having an obsession with the geography of the United States. Well, I believe that's what started being obsessed with geography.
All right, next headline. David was kidnapped in Bolivia.
That's true.
Oh, you were kidnapped in Bolivia?
Yeah, I wasn't held for ransom or anything, but when I was in Bolivia, in La Paz, which is the main city there, this guy comes up to me and he starts talking to me, asking me, he says, turista, asking me if I'm a tourist, checking me out. And then this car pulls up, and I start talking to him. Then this car pulls up. Out of the car comes two guys in suits and ties. And they tell me that they're drug enforcement police, and they suspect that I have cocaine on me.
Oh.
And, when this is my first day in Bolivia, and, when you're in a new country, the last thing you want to do is piss off authority.
Yeah.
They said, we have to check if you have cocaine, and they got me to go in this car, in the back of this car, and they drove me to this place where, no one could possibly hear me scream if they tried to kill me.
Oh
Yeah, and they ended up just taking all my money. I had like $200. I later heard that was a scam that goes on in a lot of places where people pretend to be police, and then they take you away and mug you.
no! Wow.
Yeah.
So if anybody is in Bolivia and someone walks up to you and says, "Are you a tourist?" you say, "No."
Well, it's better to not look like you're just like one of these people who's new to the place.
Wow.
And look around like, oh, everything is so new. I'm fascinated by everything. But no, you can't do that because people can take advantage of it.
Oh man, that must have been scary.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was also like mad that I fell for their thing. It was like they got me,
All right, next one. David was the first person to street perform in Antarctica.
That is not true.
Not true.
But I tried to become that. When I was on the southern tip of Chile, in the town of Punta Arenas, I always wanted to go to Antarctica. It was the only continent I hadn't been to.
Uh-huh.
So I go to this Antarctic airline company that takes these day trips to Antarctica. And it turns out that not only is it like $2,300, and this was back in like 2007, not only was it to just take this day trip where you get flown to this place, and then you walk around on a sheet of ice, and then get flown back, but all the tickets were they were booked solid, and I couldn't get a flight.
Uh-huh.
And then I came up with this idea of how about you put me on the flight, and then when the plane lands, I'll get off the plane before everyone else, and then I'll yell help, as if I'm stranded.
Yeah.
And then people will come over, and then I'll do a show for them.
You'll trick them into coming in. That's
yeah.
funny.
And then I would be the first street performer, or kind of like first street performer in Antarctica. But it turned out that they didn't go for that.
Oh.
So I have not been to Antarctica and have not street performed, but maybe someday.
Oh, so you performed on every other continent except for that one?
I've been to every other continent, and I performed on most of them. I don't think I've performed in Africa.
Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't performed in Africa yet, but I've performed on every other continent.
Wow. Wow, I would loved if that story was true, and then they let you fly there and do that. That would have been great.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah. All right, last one.
Go ahead.
David has been asked by the Freud Institute for Memory Research to donate his brain after death.
That is not true.
Oh, yeah, I did. I worked real hard on making that one up.
Yeah. It's not true, and it's one of these things where I don't know that I think that my brain would be that seen as that different from other people who just having this fascination with geography that is just how it is. It's like I've heard Einstein's brain is kept in some jar or something, and it's not really that much different. Who knows whether he was... Anyway, it's just... but no, that's not true.
One of the guys I interviewed, Peter Samuelson, who's also a magician, I think it was Peter Samuelson, he talks about when Einstein died, they, of course, put his brain in a jar to study it, and there was a guy traveling around the country with Einstein's brain, or what we think is Einstein's brain, in the back of his truck.
Right.
He would show, is this true? And so he would show people Einstein's brain, say, look, come back to my truck. Hey, here's Einstein's brain.
And they probably didn't believe him.
Yeah, but I think it's true. I think it's a true story.
That was fact. Or something John just made up.
Yeah, might be too, yeah.
All right, we're going to do some fan questions. You want some fan questions there, David?
Go ahead.
All right. Alan Sands, who's a terrific hypnotist or comedy hypnotist.
He was my agent when I worked at Disney.
Oh, you worked for Disney?
Yeah. And Alan Sands was my agent.
Oh, okay. Okay, he says, ask him how he can clear his mind after a show so he can do another set shortly afterwards.
When I do a show, I might need to just recover for a few minutes, maybe a little longer, before doing another one. And I don't need to clear my mind. Yeah, I'm always ready to do a show.
So just like any other entertainer, when you have to do 2 shows in a row with a 15-minute break or something.
Yeah, I could do several shows in a row.
Right. All right, next one, fan question. Annie Banani, the balloon storyteller out of California, right here. She says, OMG, I love this guy. Not only is he entertaining, he guessed my zip code when I was living in the Netherlands, and we were in Denver at the time.
Uh-huh.
That's it. That's her question.
That's pretty cool. I mean, when I get people from far away, they get blown away. I mean, I remember one time I was doing a show in New Zealand, doing zip codes from all over the world.